0-4 in the portal with Biggs is not a great way to start. Hello everyone, my name is Nathan. I am one half of your Heel Brothers. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about the North Carolina portal action that's been happening over the past few weeks for the basketball team. As we know, North Carolina's been looking for a big to pair alongside with Jalen Washington, James Brown, and also Zayden High. And the top four prospects that they had picked out, which are really good prospects, they are now 0-4. So what does this mean for the North Carolina basketball team? What does this mean for Hubert Davis? And what could this mean for the players that are already on the team for next year? Well, today I may be able to offer a few more options for North Carolina in the portal over the next couple weeks. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button as well if you like what you see. And come out and join our community of Tar Heel fans where we just love to have a good time and talk everything Tar Heel, and we would also really like to have you as a member. So let's take a look of the four big prospects that North Carolina was trying to recruit over the past few weeks. We've been kind of talking about these guys down in our YouTube community section where we try to keep an updated list for you guys of kind of what's going on throughout the day-to-day. We're not able to make a video about everything that's going on, so I like to use that community board with keeping everybody up to date about really what's going on with the program. So the top four prospects that everybody was looking at that North Carolina wanted to get but lost out on are as follows. Number one, Danny Wolf going to Michigan. This was a guy that they contacted very early in the process, along with Cade Tyson, who they were ultimately able to have commit to North Carolina. Big-time target, big-time shooter there, ended up going over to Michigan. Also, Jonas Aidoo out of Tennessee going to Arkansas with John Calipari, and joining him, another North Carolina target, also Adou Thiero out of Kentucky that had been with John Calipari before, and he is also going to Arkansas. But the biggest loss, I believe, that everybody is now talking about, and the most recent, has been Clifford Amanuri. I think I'm saying that right still. I'm really not sure. It's a very odd last name, but I think I got that right. But Big Cliff, we'll call him Big Cliff, that was coming out of Rutgers. And with that, people in North Carolina faithful have not been happy. A vast majority of the people on Twitter have not been happy with the lack of commits for North Carolina in the portal. Losing a guy like Clifford to Alabama as well, to a team that unfortunately has now beaten you in season and also in last year's tournament, to a coach like Nate Oates, which North Carolina fans do not like one bit, and I am right there with them on that, saying it. But there's generally concern for North Carolina fans in why isn't Hubert Davis able to bring home any of these guys and get these commitments that we think we honestly should be able to bring in. You know, you would figure out of four of them, out of all four of those guys, you would be able to bring in somebody, especially pulling a guy like Danny Wolf, bringing him to North Carolina over a team like Michigan, or bringing Clifford from Rutgers over to Carolina instead of going to a team like Bama, who just had a lot of returners come in that position in the front court kind of being overloaded in a sense. So why isn't that happening? Is it right for Carolina fans to have a cause of concern? I personally do. I can't say whether it's yes or no, but honestly, I think so, yeah, because you would think that out of those top four prospects, Carolina's cachet, NIL is not an issue. That is number one. You would be able to pull those guys to your team. So, yeah, I do think it's right to have a little bit of concern if you're a North Carolina fan. But with the concern and with the lack of commits, there are still a few different options for North Carolina in the portal. You know, we have to kind of take a minute and look at saying, you know, this is only May the 8th as the time that I'm recording this. So there is plenty of time to be able to add to this team, and I have a few options for us to look at. One of them being a 7-foot sophomore out of Kentucky, Ugana Oyenso. Big-time guy, pretty good rebounder, a guy that's a young guy. He could be really probably a solid backup to Jalen Washington, a guy who's a little bit more seniored, played some more basketball than this guy, but good option. You know, he is a big body that you can put out there and guard and use as a rim protector, which North Carolina definitely needs, and that's why this is so big for North Carolina, is because they need that rim protector, that depth down there to be able to play some of these teams that you're going to end up playing next year even within the ACC. Also, if you want to do anything nationally, you're going to need some big bodies to be able to contend with people's height and depth there. So Ugani Uyenso, to me, that is at the top of your list if you're a North Carolina fan, and that's a guy that you really want to get right there. But he's not the only people that you can get. Also, New Mexico's freshman, 6'9 freshman, J.T. Toppin. Now, I really don't know too much about him. I've heard that he's pretty quick. He's fast. He's a little bit shorter than we would actually want from the ideal center that they're looking for. He is 6'9", but he could be a pretty solid rotation piece there for North Carolina. He is a true freshman. He's coming off of his true freshman year, so he would be a true sophomore next season. J.T. Toppin could give you a little bit of dynamic play there at that 4 and 5 spot, which is definitely needed, for the North Carolina Tar Heels, and just adds a little bit more depth there to that position. So a guy to keep on there is J.T. Toppin. And the last one is a guy within the ACC, and that's Baba Miller, the sophomore out of Florida State. He is 6'11", and North Carolina is very familiar with this guy. Also, another guy that I honestly thought that Carolina could have potentially went out and got was O'Meara out of Miami, but he just went to another team as well. But back to Baba Miller. Baba Miller is a guy who we saw his name called a lot this past season, a guy who could shot block, a guy who could protect the rim, and also pretty good down there in the paint. So an option there for North Carolina that I really think that they should consider and maybe even heavily pursue, considering that he is so familiar with the ACC and understands Carolina and their play style a little bit by going up against them. So would be a little bit more of a seamless transition than maybe some of these players on this list. So thankfully, there are still options out there for North Carolina. Now, not as many and not as highly regarded as the 4 that we've missed out on, but there are still options for North Carolina and Hubert Davis to be out there and go add to the front court, which is much needed for North Carolina if they want to contend into next year. And we can't just disregard Jalen Washington completely, because personally, I think Jalen Washington is going to be much better next year. But if you are Hubert Davis, you have to understand that so far there has been some flaws to Jalen in his game. And not only that, you don't really have any viable options coming off the bench for him. You got James Brown coming in this year, but he'll be a true freshman. And then a guy in Zayden High who needs some work. Nice player. I like him. I like his energy, but definitely a foul machine, and he's definitely got some work to be done before I think anybody can say and confidently say that he could be a viable option off the bench for North Carolina. So I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit worried about this team so far. Carolina is a team that's got the backcourt taken care of, no problem whatsoever. Their backcourt looks elite, but that front court is really going to hurt them, I believe, if they can't get it figured out and can't get another able body in there before the beginning of the season next year. Because honestly, in my opinion, if Carolina's able to get a viable option down there in the paint to either start or be a really good backup to Jalen Washington, then Carolina has a potential chance to be in a national championship picture next year. But without that, I just see them having the same issues that they had this past season with getting there, because if you don't have that option and you don't have a good backcourt, especially the way some of these teams like a UConn, like a Duke will be this year, is structured, you're not really going to make it far, unfortunately. We'll probably get back to the Sweet 16, maybe the Elite 8 next year, and after that, you're just hoping that you make it to the next round at that point in time. So hope to see North Carolina bring in some guys, hopefully in the next couple of days or so. Maybe it may be one of those guys off of that list that we're seeing right there. Might be someone else that Hubert Davis is targeting. But I'm curious. Let me know what you all think about the portal and what's going on there in the comments. I want to know what you guys think. How worried are you about all the misses that Carolina's had in the portal? And let me know if you also are looking forward to any one of the 3 that I listed here in the list that are the guys that are potential targets for North Carolina. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it sparks some great conversation down in there in the comments. And I absolutely love watching you guys comment and everything. And I promise you, I see every single comment that comes through, and I absolutely love it. So be sure and comment down there, like and subscribe, as I mentioned earlier. And I want to thank you all for watching. And as always, go Heels.
You don't want none!